So now that we have a basic setup going on, I want to talk about this flame field and what it's doing. So this flame field isn't the same as turning up or down the intensity of the pyro effect. And check this out. If I press play, what you'll notice is that the movements and the overall shapes, which are produced by each simulation, are just about the same. The only difference that we're seeing here is in the shader, and that makes sense because we have different flame values being added into the emission channel. And once a flame value gets low enough, it gets cut off, and that's why the flame value of 0.75 has less visible pyro or less visible flames than a value of 1.25. But if we take a look at the actual shapes and behavior, like I said, they're just about the same. You can see that especially in areas like this. We have this shape going on right here, right there, right there, and it's pretty much an identical simulation. Now, this is very important to understand because if somebody says, hey, I want you to turn down the height of the flames, as an example, or maybe you want to make the flames expand more. The value that you would change for that isn't on the flame value. It's not like taking a gas burner and turning up that dial. It's not going to give you that kind of effect. And that is a difference with the sparse pyro solver versus the old combustion model because this is detached from the other fields. Now, as you can imagine, we will eventually attach this flame field to the other fields to control behavior. But I just want to demonstrate that flame by itself does not do that. So here's the takeaway from this. The main takeaway is that we want to keep values that exist between 0 and 1. Because this flame field isn't the main way in which we control the animation and the shapes, the main purpose, the main influence that this field has is in determining where fire is and how it's shaded. By keeping it between 0 and 1, that allows us better control when we hit the shader, and that's why it's good to keep this normalized. And all the other effects like temperature or how things expand outwards, that'll be controlled by other fields. So now that we have a general idea of what the flame field is trying to describe, what would make sense, based off of this reference, for flame values along the logs and the ember bed of our scene? So what I notice here is that the flames all concentrate mostly towards the center of the pile. We still have flames happening towards the end of these logs, but generally speaking, everything goes towards the center. Also, notice how the flames aren't really coming from the embers on the bottom. They're mainly coming from the areas of the logs that are facing towards the embers. And we will still add some flames on those embers as well, especially towards the center. But just notice how we don't have a full bed of embers that are on fire. We also don't have the entirety of the logs evenly painted and on fire. So we'll need to find some kind of way to isolate those areas of the logs that are facing towards the center. Also notice where these little flames are showing up. Notice how they're sticking to particular areas, and sometimes they disappear, sometimes they come back, but generally speaking, these bodies of flame stick to about the same spot, and it's not like they're constantly traveling around the logs it's not like they're constantly moving around the logs. So that's also something to keep in mind. When a flame body appears, it tends to stay in that little spot. And you can really see that on the log that's on the bottom facing towards us right now. So there's just that one spot that a flame likes to stay on, and then sometimes it disappears, but sometimes it comes back and it stays there. So we'll have to figure out some sort of way to achieve that effect as well. But anyway, the main point here is I want you to take a look at real-life reference. I want you to think about this flame field that we're describing and ask yourself what makes the most sense. In the next video, let's begin painting out these values.